There are moments in life when you look back and realize you've met the same man, more than once, different names, different smiles, but somehow, the same story, the same ache. You try to convince yourself it was just bad luck, poor timing, maybe even a flaw in your ability to choose. Yet deep down there's a whisper you can't ignore, that somehow something in you keeps calling them in, something beneath the surface, something you can't quite name. Carl Jung believed that the patterns we refuse to face will keep shaping our lives until we finally turn toward them. Not as punishment, not because we are doomed, but because the psyche is always seeking completion, always pulling us back to the wound that never truly healed. It's not that you're drawn to who they are. You're drawn to what they awaken or repeat inside you. You're not chasing love, you're chasing recognition. And recognition, when it comes from an old wound, can feel eerily like fate. From the outside, it makes no sense. Why would you be pulled toward what once hurt you? Yet your body, your nervous system, your very cells remember the emotional landscape where you first learned what love felt like, even if it wasn't love at all. The amygdala, the part of your brain that responds to emotional memory, has no moral compass. It doesn't distinguish between healthy and toxic. It simply says, I know this feeling, therefore I am safe. And so even in the arms of someone who might break you, you feel a strange sense of home. Greg Braden speaks of the heart field memory, an electromagnetic record of your deepest emotional experiences. Imagine your heart as a radio tower, quietly broadcasting the frequency of your unresolved stories. It doesn't matter how much you tell yourself you want something different. If your field is still tuned to the station of abandonment, rejection, or longing, you will keep finding men who play that song. Not by accident, but by resonance. This is the trap of what we often call my type. We believe it's about preference, about a look, a style, a personality. But what if your type isn't a conscious choice at all? What if it's the emotional fingerprint of your past, guiding you toward the familiar without you even realizing it? Familiar feels safe, even when it hurts, even when it leaves you empty, even when you know the ending before it begins. And here's the quiet truth that few want to face. The pull you feel toward these men is not the pull of destiny. It is the echo of your own history. It is the voice of the wound, calling you back again and again, asking to be seen, to be named, to be healed. You are not broken for feeling this way. You are not foolish. You are simply human, carrying a map drawn long ago, walking paths your conscious mind would never choose, but your inner compass still follows. And if we are willing, if we can stand still long enough to listen to that echo, we may discover that it was never about the man at all. It was always about the message. The hidden reason you keep falling for the same kind of man is not about them. It's about you and the unspoken, unseen truth that is still waiting to come home. The first pull is almost always undeniable. The glance that lingers, the unexpected current that runs through you, the sense of familiarity that wraps around your chest like an old song you can't place. You call it chemistry, you call it attraction, and yet chemistry is not the same as compatibility. It never has been. But in the beginning, your body doesn't know the difference. It doesn't stop to ask. You see, the body remembers what the mind often forgets. Your nervous system is not a blank slate. It has been trained, shaped, imprinted by the earliest experiences of closeness and care, or the lack of them. Even if your mind longs for peace, stability, reciprocity, your body still responds most strongly to the conditions it once knew. And if the conditions you knew were chaotic, unpredictable, laced with longing and uncertainty, that will be what your body first recognizes as alive. It is a dangerous kind of recognition because it feels like soul connection when it's actually wound recognition. It feels like destiny when it is simply the nervous system reading an old familiar map. That electric spark, that rush you feel when you meet him, it is not the sign of something new. It is the sign that you've been here before. Biology plays its part in the illusion. When attraction collides with uncertainty, the body releases a cocktail of hormones that make the connection feel magnetic. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, mixes with cortisol, the stress hormone, creating a chemical signature your system knows too well. It is the same pattern that once kept you bound to love that was conditional, inconsistent, or unsafe. And so, even pain can feel intoxicating when your body has learned to equate it with closeness. This is not weakness. This is not moral failure. It is emotional conditioning wearing the mask of romance. Your body is simply repeating the lessons it was taught before you even knew there was another way. And this is why the pull towards someone who will eventually hurt you can feel stronger than the draw towards someone who will honor you. But there is a deeper truth here, one that connects us to what Carl Jung understood so well. What feels like attraction is often the unconscious recognizing an opportunity to repeat the same story. It is the psyche's way of returning to the scene of the wound, hoping to write a different ending, but doing so without the awareness that could actually make that ending possible. And so we find ourselves here, once again, drawn to a familiar fire, believing we have found something rare, when in truth we have only found a reflection. This is where the pattern begins, and where, if we can see it clearly, the possibility for change begins too. From here we step deeper into the heart of the matter. If this isn't truly about the man, then what is it about? The next layer reveals itself, that what you are manifesting is not the man at all, but the wound itself. And until you understand the wound, you will keep calling it love. At first glance, it seems like you are looking for a person, someone who will understand you, protect you, see you in ways others have not. But beneath that surface longing is something older, quieter, and far more insistent. What you are truly seeking is not the man. It is the completion of a story that began long before he arrived. The unconscious does not crave suffering, it craves resolution. And yet in its pursuit of resolution, it often leads us straight back into the very situations we once fought so hard to escape. Without awareness, it recreates the setting of the original wound, the emotional atmosphere, the distance, the instability, as if placing you on the stage of an old play, hoping that this time the script will finally change. This is what Jung called the repetition compulsion of the psyche, the relentless urge to return to the source of our deepest hurts, believing that by playing the role again, we might finally get the ending we needed. But without conscious intervention, the actors change and the lines remain the same. The ending is already written before the curtain rises. Your nervous system plays its own part in this repetition. It invites people into your life who strike the same emotional chords as those from your past, not because you are naive or desperate, but because it believes those notes still need to be resolved. A man's words, his silences, his way of holding back or drawing close, all of it can awaken the memory of an earlier love, perhaps the first love you ever knew, the love that was never whole, never steady, never fully yours. When this happens, the pull toward him can feel irresistible. It's not that he is extraordinary, it's that he mirrors the unresolved space within you. Without realizing it, you step toward him, thinking you are stepping toward love, when you are actually stepping toward an old wound dressed in new clothing. And so, the pattern continues. Each time you believe it will be different. Each time you hope this man will give you the words you never heard, the care you never received, the stability you always longed for. But the unconscious, left unexamined, does not heal through hope. It heals through awareness. Until that awareness arrives, the pattern stays in control, and the story repeats itself. This is why it is not enough to simply avoid the wrong man. The focus cannot be on removing him from the picture, without first understanding why you felt drawn to him in the first place. Without that understanding, you may remove the man, but the magnet remains. And here lies the thread that will lead us to the next truth. The part of you doing the choosing is not always the adult you think you are. Often, it is the younger self, the inner child, still standing at the doorway of your desires, deciding who gets to enter. And until you meet her, until you see her, you will keep handing her the keys. There is a part of you that does not live in the present moment. She still stands in the shadow of the years when love was not a gentle, steady thing, but a fragile thread you had to hold on to tightly, so it wouldn't disappear. She is the younger self, the inner child, who learned early that love was something to earn, to chase, to keep proving herself worthy of. And though you have grown, though you have built a life and gathered wisdom, she still moves quietly inside you, shaping your desires when you are not looking. The truth is, the inner child does not seek love in the way your adult self does. She seeks what she once needed most and never fully received: approval, safety, control. To her, love is measured not by how safe it feels, but by how much it resembles the very first version she ever knew. And so, she is drawn to men who feel just slightly out of reach, men whose affection must be earned. Men who awaken that subtle tension between wanting and waiting, because that is the rhythm her heart learned to dance to. It is not cruelty that drives her toward them. It is memory. It is muscle memory of the soul. She believes that if she can just get it right this time, if she can make him stay, if she can finally receive from him what was once denied, then the ache will end. This is her quiet logic, her private bargain with love. But instead of freeing you, it locks you in the same cycle again and again. This is why, even as an adult, you may find yourself with a man who feels strangely like home. Yet, if you are honest, that home was not built of safety. It was built of longing, of over-responsibility, of silence so loud you could almost hear your own heart pleading for something more. The inner child is not malicious. She is not your enemy. But she has been standing at the gates of your desires for far too long, deciding who gets close, filtering your choices through her unhealed need. And until she is seen, heard, and cared for in a way she can finally trust, she will keep calling in men who match her story, even when that story no longer matches who you are becoming. You do not need to banish her. You need to meet her. To recognize that when you feel the strongest pull towards someone who feels almost right, but not entirely safe, it is her hand on the door, her voice saying, "Let him in. I know this feeling." And perhaps the most tender act of self-respect you can offer is to gently take her hand and remind her, we don't have to choose this anymore. But how do you break such a long-standing bond between desire and old pain? How do you teach the body and the heart to respond to a different kind of love? This is where the practice of interruption begins, not as an act of force, but as an act of quiet rebellion against the patterns that have lived in you for so long. Patterns are rarely broken in a single moment of insight. Awareness opens the door, but it is what you do in the small in-between moments that begins to change the shape of your attraction. To interrupt a pattern is not to deny what you feel. It is to hold it in your hands long enough to see it for what it is. It is to resist the old pull, not by force, but by choosing a different rhythm than the one your body has always danced to. Breaking the loop begins with pausing in the very space where you would usually leap forward. The pause is powerful because it interrupts the chemical chain reaction before it gathers momentum. In that pause, you can name the pattern. This feeling is familiar. I have met it before. You begin to create distance between the spark and the story you've always told yourself about it. Some tools live in the body itself. Somatic tracking, noticing where in your body the attraction or anxiety settles, can loosen the grip of the old script. When you feel the rush of interest or longing, trace it inside you. Breathe into it. Let it be there without moving toward the person who triggered it. Over time, the urgency softens, and what once felt magnetic begins to lose its hold. There is also the practice of mirror reconditioning, meeting your own gaze in the mirror when the old belief surfaces, and holding that gaze until you feel the pull to look away. That moment when your eyes want to break contact is the same moment your inner child has learned to abandon herself. Stay there. Witness her. Offer presence instead of absence. In doing so, you begin to associate steadiness with yourself, not with someone who withholds it. This is not about reciting affirmations you don't believe. It is about creating small, consistent interruptions in the pathway that connects desire to pain. You are retraining your nervous system to recognize peace as something alive, not something dull. To see steadiness as a sign of safety, not a sign of boredom. To welcome warmth without waiting for the chill that usually follows. Attraction is not fixed. It is shaped, rewired, retrained by the signals you repeatedly respond to. Each time you choose presence over pursuit, each time you let the spark pass without chasing it, you are teaching your heart and your body a new language. One in which love no longer feels like longing, and safety no longer feels like loss. This is where the deeper truth begins to emerge. because even when you interrupt the pattern and begin to rewire the pull, you may still find yourself meeting the same archetype in different faces. And here is where Jung's understanding offers us the next key, that what returns to you is not always a person, but an archetype, a living symbol, still waiting to be integrated. Even when you begin to interrupt the familiar pull, something curious can still happen. You may notice that a different man appears, yet somehow his presence stirs the same story. His eyes may be kinder, his words more careful, his approach less reckless, but beneath the surface, the emotional signature is hauntingly familiar. This is the moment when you begin to understand that what keeps returning to you is not a man at all. It is an archetype. Carl Jung believed that we do not simply attract individuals, we attract living symbols that carry the unspoken fragments of our own psyche. These archetypes arrive wearing many faces, but their essence is the same. Each one is a mirror, reflecting something within you that has not yet found its place in the light. Perhaps it is the wounded father, who offers moments of warmth followed by sudden withdrawal. Perhaps it is the devouring lover, who consumes your energy while giving little of himself. Perhaps it is the untouchable king, adored by many yet emotionally sealed away. The names may change, but their purpose does not. Each one stands before you, holding a piece of your own unlived life, waiting for you to claim it. When we mistake the archetype for the man, we enter the same emotional maze again and again. We believe he is our destiny when, in truth, he is only our signal. He is the embodiment of a lesson, an image your unconscious summons to help you see what you have not yet integrated. This is why, even in his absence, the pattern can persist, because the lesson is not tied to him. It is tied to the part of you he reflects. When you meet the same archetype in a new form, it is an invitation to turn your attention inward rather than outward. Instead of asking why him again, you begin to ask, what is he showing me about the way I love, the way I long, the way I lose myself? In that question lies the seed of liberation, because once you extract the symbol from the story, the man himself loses his power over you. You no longer confuse the spark of recognition with the promise of fulfillment. And here is the quiet shift that follows. When you no longer need the archetype to arrive in the form of a man, you open space for it to integrate within you. You become the one who offers yourself the safety of the wounded father, the passion of the devouring lover, the sovereignty of the untouchable king, and, without the cost of losing yourself to him, this is where the pattern begins to dissolve at its root. And from this ground, we can finally approach the truth that has been waiting beneath every chapter of this journey, that the man you have been searching for all along may not be a man at all. He may be the part of you that no longer needs to be chosen to feel whole. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." These words linger like a quiet truth beneath everything we have explored here. What you have been calling fate, the pull toward the same kind of man, the same emotional rhythm, the same rise and fall, is not fate at all. It is a loop written by the parts of you still longing to be heard. You are not cursed. You are not doomed to meet the same man in different bodies forever. What you have been encountering are the trail markers of your own evolution, the signposts leading you back to yourself. Each man who carried the pattern was not your failure. He was your teacher, even if the lessons came wrapped in longing, disappointment, or loss. Greg Braden speaks of the heart-brain connection, the moment when our thoughts and emotions move into harmony. When the heart and brain are coherent, our electromagnetic field changes. It stops broadcasting the frequency of abandonment, scarcity, or unworthiness, and begins to emit the energy of integration. In that state, the archetype no longer needs to arrive in the form of another person. You have become the source of what you once searched for. This is the quiet liberation that follows. When your own presence becomes enough, the same kind of man stops appearing. The echo fades because the chamber it once resonated in is no longer empty. You have filled it, not with someone else's love, but with your own steady, patient, undivided attention. And so the real man you have been seeking may not be a man at all. He may be the version of you that no longer waits to be chosen, the version who does not confuse longing with love, The version who has learned that solitude is not exile, but sanctuary. When you stand in that place, you will still meet people. Some may carry traces of the old story, some may not. But the difference is this: you will no longer be pulled into the loop. You will feel the spark and smile at it, knowing it is just a flicker of an old flame, one you have already walked away from, and maybe that is the truest ending of all. Not that you finally find the one, but that you finally become the one. The one who knows herself so fully that love, when it comes, is no longer a search for completion, but a meeting of two already whole souls. And in that meeting, there is no echo, only presence.